The United States is the land of immigrants. Whether it be the Native Americans crossing the Bering Land Bridge 15,000 years ago, the first permanent European settlement in North America at St. Augustine in 1565, or the first African slaves arriving in Jamestown in 1619, no ethnic group is truly from North America. Instead, the continent is a melting pot of different ethnic groups that each have their own unique story and claim to the New World. Nowhere is this idea of a melting pot more apparent than in the United States, which has always prided itself as the land of opportunity where all men are created equal. Immigration and the American way of life are intrinsically linked. There's an unspoken promise in this country that anyone can be someone if they work hard enough. And yet, that isn't entirely true for everyone. This can be seen in the ongoing struggles of Hispanic and Latin American immigrants, in part due to societal xenophobia. The United States has a history of limiting or temporarily suspending immigration for non-white ethnic groups. One example of this is the influx of Mexican immigrants into the United States beginning in 1917 and lasting into the 1930s due to the economic and societal uncertainty created by the Mexican Revolution. Instead of welcoming the immigrants who had proven their worth by filling in vital jobs under the Bracero program during World War I, they were met with discrimination and mob violence by the American populace. And when the Great Depression struck, these Mexican immigrants and workers faced deportation, with upwards of 2 million Hispanic and Latin Americans being repatriated. However, the United States changed its tune in 1942 when it began its involvement in World War II by reviving the Bracero program once more. This program brought in 50,000 new Mexican laborers each year to work agricultural jobs, with the number ballooning to over 400,000 per year in the late 50s. The United States also worked to slowly phase out ethnic quotas for immigration. In 1952, the McCarran-Walter Act removed specific ethnic quotas, but included a clause that they could deny immigrants based on their ties to a communist regime. This means, for example, if a Cuban person wanted to immigrate to the United States after 1959, they would likely have been denied since they have ethnic ties to a nation that is ruled by a communist regime. This was repealed in 1965 with the Hart-Celler Act, which entirely eliminated race or national origin as reasons to deny immigration. However, the government would only issue 170,000 entry visas per year. This lack of opportunity, coupled with hardships in multiple Latin American countries, in part due to the intervention and exploitation of the United States, has led to a sizable population of Hispanics and Latin Americans to illegally immigrate into the United States. In the 1980s, Border Patrol officers apprehended over 1 million illegal immigrants per year. This problem led the American public to push for stronger border control and, in extreme cases, demand a mass deportation of illegal immigrants from Latin America. This was only made worse by politicians in the United States using illegal aliens as a scapegoat for economic woes, strain on public services, and wage depression. Under President Reagan, the United States government saw a mass deportation campaign as both impractical and needlessly expensive. As a replacement, the Immigration Reform and Control Act of 1986 increased border security, penalized companies for employing illegal immigrants, and offered amnesty to all illegal aliens who could prove that they were residing in the United States prior to January 1st, 1982. However, this proved ineffective because most of the funding to execute these programs went to funding Border Patrol, and the penalties on businesses hiring illegal immigrants was rarely enforced. So, while the Immigration Reform and Control Act made entering the country illegally harder, it failed to deter the agricultural and construction sectors from continuing to use cheap illegal immigrant labor. Today, it is estimated that between 11 and 22 million illegal immigrants reside in the United States. Under the current Trump administration, the Department of Homeland Security and the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or ICE, has been appointed for the mass detention and deportation of all illegal immigrants in the United States. Although they are meant to go after all illegal immigrants, they disproportionately target Hispanic and Latin American communities. The modern Hispanic civil rights movement has become prominent in American culture, especially among the youth. This generation of youth is not too dissimilar from the baby boomer generation that grew up listening to Chuck Berry and Ray Charles, sympathizing with the plight of African American civil rights. Gen Z has become enamored with Bad Bunny and Karol G, and if history really is cyclical, Gen Z will support a Hispanic civil rights movement, beginning with abolishing the racist practices that the United States has implemented over the past 100 years to subordinate them.